As we move into the end of May and the beginning of June, the garden is really starting to take off. But this is also a critical time for setting up the rest of your summer for success. Today I'm sharing the key tasks I'm working on right now in my kitchen garden and a few ways I make these jobs a little easier. As we head into the summer, the first thing that I like to do is clear out any bolted crops. For example, this lettuce is starting to form a central stalk, which means it's starting to bolt. And this can happen really fast. Just last week you saw this and it wasn't this large. But I know now that it's starting to shift into reproduction mode. For lettuce, what that means is that these leaves are going to get bitter. Now sometimes I like to test especially the bottom leaves and see if they're that bitter yet. So the leaf part is actually okay. I could still use this for lettuce, but I guarantee you this central spine is going to be bitter. Let's see. Oh, yeah. That's how you know that the lettuce is not going to be good. But like I said, test it out. Some of these top leaves, especially when you're not on the spine, they might be able to be salvaged for your salad. Oh, the good news is that lettuce does get bitter, but some of your other crops like spinach and like other greens don't get bitter. So a lot of times you can go ahead and harvest them, but know that once this central stalk starts to form, they're on their way out. Now, one thing that you can do if you have the space is you can leave it in your garden and let it flower because it will attract pollinators and it'll be really good for your garden. And if you want to save seed, you can do that too from heirloom varieties. But especially if you need the space, for this garden in particular, I need the space for these pepper plants that are coming behind it, then I need to pull it so I can make room for what's coming in next. In the case in the bed behind me, once I pulled out my broccoli plants, I immediately planted okra. So if you pull out something that's a cool season crop because you need extra space for something else, then immediately replant that extra crop. Some heat tolerant crops that you might consider are cucumbers, beans, okra, sweet potatoes, even peppers can go in after cool season crops. As the temperatures in the summer rise, and for many of us, rainy days are fewer and further between, we need to do what we can to prevent unnecessary stress on our crops. For me, a top priority is adding mulch. Mulch not only is the best prevention for out of control weeds, but it also keeps moisture in, regulates the soil temperature by keeping it cooler, and it reduces soil splash up that can exacerbate fungal disease. With my garden grids in place, it is really easy to mulch right around my plants without disturbing the watering system. All I have to do is apply the mulch and gently lift up the grids above it. Whether you use straw like I did in this bed, or fallen leaves like I've done in the rest of my beds, or wood chips, which is another favorite of mine I love using in in-ground gardens especially, or maybe you have access to a different type of organic mulch. Getting the mulch applied before summer is critical for all of the reasons that I already stated. So make sure if you haven't yet to get mulch on your garden and you will be grateful that you did. Next, we want to look at training vines and pruning tomatoes. Training vines like cucumber plants here and melons early keeps the plants manageable and it encourages better airflow, which helps reduce disease. And this is also the time to start considering pruning your tomatoes. At the very least, you want to remove the lower leaves of the tomato plants. They are the most susceptible to fungal diseases like early blight and septoria leaf spot. And since they're at the bottom, they're not going to get much sunlight to drive photosynthesis anyway. And if you choose to remove the suckers, like this one, off of your tomato plants, this is a job you'll want to do every few days. This is always a personal decision whether you want to prune off those suckers or not. When I grow my tomatoes further apart, I rarely prune the suckers. But when I'm growing them this close together, I've found that removing them helps keep the plant a bit more manageable. Now, all of this assumes that you already have your supports in place. If you haven't done it yet, put your tomato cages in. Work on making sure your cucumbers have something to climb up, and your pole beans for that matter. Whether it's for tomatoes or vining crops, it always makes it easier to guide their growth upward instead of having to wrestle with heavy plants later. Next, I know that we don't want to talk about this because we hope it won't be a problem, but it will be a problem in all of our gardens, and that is Pest Patrol. Now is the time to stay ahead of pest issues as much as you can and try to catch problems early on. Squash bugs for now haven't arrived yet, but it could be any day now. Squash bugs, cucumber beetles, aphids, they've been here for a while. they always start showing up more as we head into the summer. Catching these infestations early before they take off can make a huge difference. When we catch them early, we can start hand picking, which is usually the easiest thing to do at the beginning. It prevents us from having to use any kind of major sprays, but it also keeps the populations in check when we can get ahead of it quickly. So on a beautiful morning like this, just take some time and go out in your garden, inspect your crops, see if there's any pests that are showing up early. That way you can get ahead of it. As we get into summer, the watering needs change, and it's time to revisit the irrigation schedule that we may have set up back in the spring. The weather's hotter, we're seeing less rainfall, and our plants are maturing, which means their roots are deeper. Instead of frequent shallow watering, which is good when you're first starting to plant seeds in your garden, you want to shift to a deeper, less frequent soaking. Plus, if you're growing root crops like onions or potatoes, you'll actually want to cut back on watering now. Too much moisture at this stage can cause problems like rot and poor bulb formation. If you have raised beds, having a consistent, even watering system like the garden grid makes it simple to adjust. Whether I shut off the grids altogether or I just adjust the flow as the water needs change, I love how I'm able to do it so quickly and easily. But whatever irrigation you have, whether it's a system or you're hand watering, don't forget to adjust how you water based on the season and the size of the crops. A little maintenance now sets you up for a much healthier, more productive garden this summer. I hope these tips help you feel more confident going into the new season. And if you're looking for watering or plant support solutions like I showed you today, I'll link the products from Garden in Minutes I use and love below. Tell me though, is there anything I should add to this list that you typically do in your garden at the end of May, the beginning part of June? Let me know what I may have missed in the comments.